Well, just as we promised, actually, we didn't promise anything would happen. Nothing really happened this weekend, but I reached out to a guy named Doug. And Doug is not just your average guy. He's got some cool aspects to him. He runs MLB Spaces. He caught my attention when he interviewed Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer. You know what? Let's get into it right now.
Jainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Locked On Astros. You know me, I'm one of your co-hosts, one of two co-hosts at Htown Wheelhouse. You can find me wherever you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on X. You can find me on TikTok. You can find the show at Locked On Astros wherever you get your podcast, pretty much anywhere in the social media stratosphere. And I brought on a special guest tonight, my friend Doug. We've been actual friends for all of 10 minutes, and I already love the guy. He is at MLB Spaces on X. Doug is actually active military, serving in the Army. So, sir, thank you for your service. Tell us about yourself a little bit before we get into the Alex Bregman thing. You know, who are you a fan of? Tell us about the Chipper Jones interview, and let's just rock and roll. Oh, hold on.
Hey,
and go.
Hey, Brad, I appreciate being here, and I appreciate your support. So about last year, I was like, I just want a place where all fans of all teams can come talk about whatever they want, right? I'm a huge baseball fan in general. The first game I ever went to was at Fenway Park, so naturally I became a Red Sox fan, but I've been here and there, spent a couple of years up in Detroit, rooting for the Tigers when they weren't so good. I was Maryland in 19 when the Orioles weren't so good. And, I've been in Maryland the last couple of years now. So real easy to follow the Orioles and Nationals, loving them. But anyone can, I run these spaces on X. Basically, anyone could come in, say whatever they want. We could talk about it, anything they want in baseball. And I've just been having a good time with that. About the Chipper Jones, I just took a shot in the dark. Actually, not so much a shot in the dark, but I took a shot in the dark at Jonathan Papelbon last week, right? Okay. And for those of you who don't know, Chipper Jones' last MLB home run was a walk-off home run against Jonathan Papelbon.
Wow.
So we talked about that on the space, and then someone in my group chat was posted about the home run that we were talking to Jonathan Papelbon about. And I was like, all right, let me just, shout out to Chipper. And lo and behold, he responded and he actually showed up, and we had an awesome conversation. A lot of people tuned in, and it was really fun.
No, that is cool. I mean, for you to swing and hit a home run with Chipper Jones, one of my favorite clips that I saw of him, he did with Harold Reynolds on MLB Network, and they were talking. He's like, Chipper, tell us how you hit home runs. And he goes, I don't know, I just hit the ball. And he said, I was trained to drive the ball and knock a hole in the middle of the center field fence. Mm-hmm. And every time I did that, the ball seemed to go a lot further than I was aiming. And so, I remember when Mark McGwire played, in the 90s and the steroid era, but Mark McGwire would say, I don't go up and try to hit home runs. I just swing the bat. And a home run hitter. Now, these days, the game's changed, where I think guys are actually trying to launch the ball into the stratosphere. I mean, you see them when they swing out of their shoes. We've seen Springer go down on the knee. We've seen Altuve go grab a ball down on his knee and hit it out. So the name of the game is RBIs. I believe 54% of all runs are scored by the home run in Major League Baseball, some crazy number like that. So that's what they do. And the game has changed, but that is great that you were able to get him on. Let's dive right into this. Look, this topic, and it's almost a topic that we talked about ad nauseum to this point, because it seems like, for me, the longer that we wait for Alex Bregman to get signed, the more likely I would think he would return to Houston, because it doesn't seem like there's much of a market out there. Now, you pay attention to the AL East a lot. What have you heard? What is your take on Alex Bregman? Do you think he's likely to come back to Houston? Do you think Boston ultimately signs him, the Yankees, something like that? What is kind of an East Coast take on the Alex Bregman saga as we know it?
Yeah, so from the people I talk to and information I can gather, I honestly feel like a couple things. I feel like he'll end up in the AL East somewhere. But I can't tell you why. I do not know why. Just thinking outside the box, like the Yankees to me don't seem like a good fit because, Yankees Astros rivalry over the last couple postseasons, all that. The Red Sox need some long, chain of trades and movements to happen. We've been hearing a lot of Devers not Devers. He's second piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Like a Cassis out to Seattle for a pitcher like Castillo, and then Devers would have to move from third to first, and then
right.
And then Bregman would play third, but they already have a Yoshida on their team who's another pretty much DH first type, and it's a lot of guys who are getting older and defense is, going down, and the Red Sox are already, one of the worst defensive teams. I don't see, definitely not to Baltimore because of Gunnar Henderson.
Right.
Nobody, he's not going to the Rays, right? Rays don't spend money, and nobody knows what Toronto's going. So I say all these things, right? But I still feel like he's going to end up in the AL East. I don't know why.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? The thing is, it is just so hard. I think for us, the AL Central, you have AJ Hinch with the Tigers. They've got young guys. They've got, Skubal, who they want to build around. I think that would be a decent fit. Now, I don't know how his bat plays in that stadium up in Detroit. And I just don't know that there's $200 million suitors like he and both his agent Scott Boras are looking for. And, the Astros have on the table a known offer of 168 for 6. There's rumors that they've upped it to 180. If Bregman wants 200, you can take that 180 or 185 and give him like $20 million signing bonus. That wouldn't go against your cap. That wouldn't take a cap hit. But all the stars, we just lost Kyle Tucker, probably one of the most skilled, I think that one of the truest 5-tool guys that has been dealt this year. I think he's got 40 power. I think the guy is going to hit 50 home runs before his career's said and done. But, he's set to make 400 million, 400 to 450 plus. And so the Astros cut their losses, and they did that. Now, here's an interesting thing. And I don't know if us Astro fans have realized this. When the Astros extended Yordan Alvarez, they bought out his last 3 years. This year would have been his walk year, just like Framber Valdez and Kyle Tucker. So you would have looked at, if Dana Brown and if they had not have signed him to an extension, you would be looking at Yordan Alvarez also being in a walk year, which would be, I think, almost catastrophic.
Yeah. It seems like they also have a couple, I think they're done paying Verlander now, right? And,
he's off
Altuve.
Yeah, well, so Altuve they extended for the next 5. I mean, Altuve is going to be an Astro for life. This next year, they do have Ryan Presley, who has a no trade clause, and we'll get to Arenado with the no trade clause. And then we've got a couple other contracts. We've got dead money. We've got Montero. We've got Jose Abreu. I mean, we've got so much dead money on like 40-something million dead money on the books. But we're going to I'm going to talk to the fans. And I know most of our fans are not big on Nolan Arenado, but I have a financial statement, a financial breakdown that Michael Schwab did. I'm not going to take credit for his work. I mean, he did the work. So I'm going to quote him, and I'm going to tell you why I think it does make a little bit of sense fiscally for us to get Nolan Arenado. But I'm going to ask you, what do we think they're going to ask for in return for a trade? So let's talk about it after these words. The World Series brings teams together. It relies on teamwork. At Select Quote, they want to be a part of your team. That's right. They want to protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much more time and care into yourself and to be the healthiest and best version of you. So Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Select Quote, they shop, you save. Get the right insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon. That's right. And one more word from our sponsor here. We're going to talk about FanDuel. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Locked On Astros. It's brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Get ready to tackle NFL action with this amazing app. I'm telling you, like, if you watched that Lions versus Bills game, look, I know we're Texans fans, and I know the Texans clinched the AFC South once again, but that was a shootout. And if you would have had that app, look, all you had to do was bet $5. And if you would have won, if you would have bet on the Bills, you would have won $150 in bonus bets. That's right. So go get the FanDuel Sportsbook app today. It gives you everything you need. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more in the same place where you place your bets. Like if you were like, you know what, I know Derek Stingley's going to intercept the ball and take it from, Tyreek Hill and win the game. I mean, there's prop bets and everything. So visit FanDuel.com and join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, and we are back. Doug, thank you for tuning in. Make sure y'all go to at MLB Spaces. MLB is capitalized, and check out Doug. Give him a follow. Now, Nolan Arenado, we are going to talk about this, folks. And I know I have people in here that are opposed to Nolan Arenado. If we're not going to pay Lance, I keep wanting to say Lance Berkman. If we're not going to, I'm such an old head. If we're not going to pay Alex Bregman, I guess it just rolls off the tongue better.
Yeah.
Why are we going to pay Nolan Arenado? He had a horrible year last year. Well, he did hit 271, but here is his contract situation as it stands. If we traded for him, if he agreed to be traded, okay, and then we'll get to something else, and I'll ask you what you think the Cardinals could or would ask for. It could look like this right here. $16 million a year from a luxury tax perspective. So not $27 million. And let me tell you how that is. He is due $74 million over the next 3 years. Under the new CBA, when a player is traded, the remaining balance of the contract gets recalculated to determine the annual tax salary. Now, make sure you'll listen to this. This is really interesting. This is all Michael Schwab's work. For Arenado, that would be around $24 million a year. There are also a few factors to consider. First, Colorado owes $10 million of the contract, which would get the price down. So really, it would be a $21 million a year contract. Next, the Astros may ask the Cardinals to throw some money in, such as $3 million a year. Now that's $18 million. Finally, because Nolan's contract is deferred, the league could recalculate the final amount against market value, which could make the $74 million actually $68 or $69 million. That would essentially be a $16 million tax hit. Y'all ask, how is his defense? He has 10 gold gloves. That's how his defense is. He has not declined defensively. He just doesn't hit for power anymore. And so so think about that, Doug. If I can get Nolan Arenado and I don't have to give up something of value like a prospect, maybe they take on a majority of Ryan Presley's contract, a setup guy. I don't know what their back end of their bullpen situation is, but if you could do that and bring in Arenado and you're not able to bring back Bregman, does that make a little more sense only paying him 16 versus hearing that he's owed 24 or 27 million?
That's a big difference, especially if, you guys have, like you said before, a lot of dead money on the books, right? You got partially another team paying for him still, right? And then if you get St. Louis to add some more money into it. The trade you guys just got off, you got Paredes, right? But I think, he might see time at first base also, third base, first base. So yeah, why not go out and get a, gold glover, right?
Well,
here's
the deal. There are some people saying that they've heard that they want Cam Smith, who we just got.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. Now, guys, Greg, Rob, Chris, Alberto, Dustin, and Doug, I'm calling all the people out in our chat. I don't think there's any way that Dana Brown goes and gets a Cam Smith and then trades him for an aging third baseman. If Cam Smith is a part of the Nolan Arenado deal, then you know what? I think we're just going to roll with Whitcomb or DeCenzo. We're not. You don't get back, I think, a prospect, right, of that caliber for Kyle Tucker, and your main piece then be Isaac Paredes, correct?
Yeah, I think the whole point of it, right, is you kind of figured that Kyle Tucker was going to walk, right? And you want to get something with him. You don't want a repeat of Shohei Ohtani where the Angels got nothing for him, right?
Not a thing.
So trading him, getting the prospect back better and building for the future while, you're shedding some of his payroll. It kind of really wouldn't make sense to me to, move the prospect you just got. You want something. You figure he's going to be, I believe number 73rd prospect in Cam Smith and MLB, right? I think he's projected to be at third base, right? So he's probably going to be the third baseman of the future. And it doesn't seem why they would kind of go and trade him.
Yeah, exactly. It just, and of course, at this point, we are literally speculating. There is, and I have literally, I've been in conversations with people that have told me, look, this deal is going down. I know this is happening. And it literally takes a hard turn. Astros fans, we remember 2017. The Astros didn't even know for sure we were going to get Justin Verlander. Mm-hmm. Justin Verlander didn't know it until there were like 58 seconds left. Literally on the clock. And so these things, these backroom deals, what's being talked about, the things that get leaked. Gosh, we even had debacles during was it Morosi? Was it John Morrissey who had talked about the plane for Ohtani was going to Toronto? Wasn't it him? And I really felt bad for the guy because they were like, people just jumped on him. And every once in a while I'll get information and someone will say, you look, I don't mind if you share this, but this isn't like a for sure thing. And I'm not ever trying to be the guy that's breaking the story, but I hear things from time to time. And a lot of it I don't share because it all is still speculative. It's a lot of hearsay. And a lot of times these agents have people too. These agents have people that talk and leak stuff. Maybe they're trying to drive that price up. And before we get into Santander, who I was corrected the other night on Back to the Bullpen, how to pronounce his name, I was like, oops, like I butchered his name. I was saying Santander like I'm some deep South Texan, right?
Santander, yeah.
Santander. I still am getting it right. I'm butchering it left and right. I'm going to make a shirt for Back to the Bullpen that says it's pronounced, and I'm going to spell out the pronunciation if he becomes a Houston Astro. But we're going to talk. We're going to go to one more of our amazing sponsors, and that is we're going to talk about Game Time, and then we'll get back into it, Doug.
Cool.
All right, everybody. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is a wonderful app. You need to go get it. I've told you many times. I've been walking up to Minute Maid Park, and yes, I'm still calling it Minute Maid. I'm not going to call it Dyken or Dakin Park until I get there and see the logo myself, because to me, it's still all about the oranges in the back of the train. No matter where you're sitting, if you're up close to Bobby, up there in the train, if you're in the nosebleeds, if you're down, if you want to get a seat super close, they've got super deals, and you cut through all the frills and all the stuff that you don't want to look at, and it takes you to the tickets you want. If you went to the Texans game today, that was exciting. You can go to comedy shows, plays, concerts. It doesn't matter. Check it out. Go to Game Time app and use the promo code LOCKEDINMLB. You get $20 off your first purchase. The biggest and most flexible customer service policy in the business. Also, if you find a ticket in the same row in the same section for a cheaper price, they will credit your account 110% the difference, so you can have more money to go more places. And there's no planning ahead. You just go, you just say, hey, we're going to the game tonight. Do you have tickets? No, but I will once I walk in. And you go take care of that. Why? Why do we do this? Because it's always game time. All right, again, thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you make Locked On Astros your first listen. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Make sure you follow Doug on @MLB and then spaces, all one word. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on X. Get involved in the conversations. He may have a legend or a superstar that you have never gotten to talk to and that you want to talk to, so definitely check that out. So one of the things that there's all kinds of names. I mean, honestly, Doug, we could go from the bargain bin of, Alex Verdugo to Jason Hayward, all the way up to Anthony. Say his last name again. Santander. Oh, hold on. I still got you on mute. Okay. Say that again.
Santander.
I'm going to get it. It is. I'm definitely in the beginnings. I've got to learn how to pronounce his name, because I don't know. I kind of want him here. How exciting was he in an Orioles uniform?
Do you know who holds the most record for home runs onto Utah Street in Camden Yards? He's tied with Chris Davis. Yeah.
Wow.
So trust me when I say, a fan favorite here in Baltimore, switch hitter, better from the left side. Just a class act, man. He not the most fleet of foot, but he can make plays in the outfield. As he gets older, that'll probably get less and less, but switch hitter, serviceable in the outfield, maybe a little better, right? 44 home runs, right? He hit some tanks onto Utah.
Yeah.
Can go the other way too, and he's hitting righty.
Now, was he a good clubhouse guy? I mean, I don't know much about him. So
yeah, fan favorite. I'd be surprised if anyone had a bad word to say about him.
Wow. Okay.
He'll definitely make any team better, and he will protect whoever needs protecting in the lineup, and you can count on him. Maybe even as he's hitting righty, at home, if he were to sign with you guys, the Crawford boxes might give him a couple more home runs, because if y'all don't remember, they moved the outfield out in Camden Yards last year, so that probably took away a couple home runs.
Now
they are moving back in. Yeah,
they're moving him back in because they're like, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot with that.
I mean, listen, they do it and they start winning, for the couple of years. So
True.
I don't know, maybe it was a thing with their pitchers and new draft strategies for pitchers and, free agent signings of pitchers, but it worked. They went from nothing to something real quick.
Now, speaking of home runs and how ballparks are created, I don't know if you know this, but do a deep dive when you get a chance and look into the wind and the structure of where I believe is it still called Jacobs Field in Cleveland? What is their stadium called now?
I think it's been Progressive.
Okay, Progressive. Okay.
Progressive.
Yeah, I'm going way back to like freaking Albert Hill. Sorry.
Unless they change it, because they're changing stadiums every year. Yeah.
It's probably Progressive Field, right? Well, the way that there are these holes in the top of that stadium and the way the wind cuts through Cleveland, they say it kind of creates like a jet stream. And if the wind's rolling right, the ball flies out of that ballpark. And I've heard that it's designed to do that, which is interesting because I'm no aeronautical engineer, but that's pretty impressive that they can think of stuff like that.
I'll have to check that out because I have been there, right? But it was in opening week. And let me tell you, I know it's cold. Man, I'm sorry for everybody up north. Why do y'all not build dome stadiums? I understand baseball is an outside game, retractable roof, do something. Why would Minnesota build Target Field and not put a roof on that thing? Mike Stanton, who played for 19 years, goes, that is insane. Nobody wants to play in Lambeau Field. I mean, it would be like us taking baseball to an ice rink, right? Yeah, it gets real cold there.
Definitely. So I have a question. So do you think getting a slugger like Sir Anthony over to Houston, do you think that's something? Because it's been rumored from Carlos Baerga, it's been rumored from a lot of Latin media that the Astros are going to sign him. I mean, wouldn't he be a strong addition to go along with Altuve and Yordan Alvarez?
So here's what I do know, right? I do know that he's not coming back to Baltimore because Tyler O'Neill signed a 3-year deal with an opt-out after one. They were very left-handed hitter heavy, and they needed right-handed power. So there's probably not a return to Baltimore for him. Listen, I maybe it's just because most of the teams I follow, like really close, are in the AL East, but you have Boston's interested in him, Yankees are interested in him.
Yeah.
Those are the two that I've heard. I haven't heard Astros, but he's Venezuelan, so he will probably have a good time there with Mr. Altuve.
Oh no, definitely. And that is one thing that is really good. And actually I just learned this because I was listening to my friend Rob Fontenot. He actually does Astros baseball, and he had one of the Spanish broadcast team on his show, and he said Kyle Tucker, his mother's from Spain, and he's actually very well versed in Spanish. Now, Spain, like Spanish in Spain and Spanish in Latin America, two different ball games there. Yeah. But apparently he could speak pretty fluent Spanish, and that's something I never knew about Kyle Tucker. Now, let's just say this for conversation's sake. Let's say the Astros get back Alex Bregman, okay? We don't make any more big splashes in the outfield. We kind of limp in with the outfield of Chas McCormick, Jake Myers, and they're going to platoon Dubon and Alvarez in left field. The Astros pitching staff, I think, is excellent. I would like them to go out and get an AJ Minter or someone else like that to add to the bullpen outside of the bullpen arm they got, because they're going to try to turn him into a starter. What would be do you think the Astros have a deeper playoff run in 25, even without Kyle Tucker? or do you think there's going to have to be some more pieces come along the way mid-season for them to really make another deep playoff run?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I was talking to my my buddy JB. I talked AL East on his pod, the Back It Up Binge podcast yesterday, and we were talking about Red Sox and where we ranked them, and I ranked them. I thought I had them third, but I went back. I had them last, right? So before I came on, I looked where I had the Astros, and I had the Astros third. Last year preseason predictions, I had them third, and for the first 2 months of the season, I was looking good. Like, oh, I'm a genius,
Right?
But they turned it around real quick, as you know. The Rangers kind of had their World Series hangover, and
Exactly.
Seattle didn't do what I thought Seattle was going to do, right? So, when you posed this question to me, beforehand, I had some time to think about it. I saw the Kyle Tucker trade, and I was like, that's a big loss, but then I was like, well, if I recall correctly, he didn't play all the season, right?
Yeah, he was out like 3.5 months with a shattered shin bone, basically.
Yeah. So and y'all still got back into it. So, it's hard to say. Like, you always want to look at your favorites, right? And Yankees are always there, right? They're going to be there, and the Astros are going to be there, right? They're like the Rays. They're always going to be there, but they're a step ahead because they usually always do better in the playoffs than the Rays do, right?
Right.
But they're always going to be there. They're always going to get back there somehow. Last year, so I got the preseason one wrong, but I did have them losing 2-1 to the. I had the Tigers beating them in the series. Yeah, I went back and found that too. Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, hold on. Before you go further,
Sure.
You be careful on your predictions, because if you're good at predictions, you need to throw us a bone a little bit there, Doug.
Well, I think I'm over. I'm over Seattle. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. Right? They seem to have. I put their pitching on a pedestal, and their J-Rod just had a horrible season. Right?
Yeah, well, he's got nobody in there helping him. I mean.
Yeah.
Hey, Seattle, right here. Htown Wheelhouse. I'm telling you, give us J-Rod. We'll treat him right. We'll treat him. We will put a crown on his head. Bring J-Rod to us. I remember, this is funny. I got to tell you this. I don't know if you heard this. When Dusty Baker was manager, he talked about how, well, we're talking about center field. Well, I don't have Julio Rodriguez out there in center field, but yet he played. But that year, the center field spot, our center field spot, had more WAR, had better stats at the time than Julio, and it was crazy.
Yeah,
that's a guy that should be a superstar. He's a great dude when he comes to the ballpark. I don't know what he does in Baltimore, but sometimes he'll play catch with the fans. Every in between innings when he's playing catch with the ball that he's warming up with, he'll throw it up to the stands. Real good dude. He's actually best friends with Jeremy Pena. So, man, gosh, it'd be so cool to get him here. Obviously, his contract wouldn't allow us.
Yeah.
And look, the Rangers, I think the Rangers are going to be better.
Yes.
The A's are the A's. The Mariners are just so disappointing. The Angels may be scrappy a little bit, may compete with Ron Washington at the helm again. But Doug, I think the division is ours. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion because we saw how last year could go.
Yeah.
But we've got guys like Jacob Melton in the wings. We got AJ Blueball, who is an amazing pitcher. We've got so many young pitching arms. Colton Gordon. There's a name I want you to remember. Logan Van Way is going to be a reliever. We have our former number 1 overall pick in Forrest Whitley finally going to contribute to the Astros. So do you think, could you see the Astros pushing for an ALCS if they play their cards right?
Yeah, I see them. I see them winning the division basically because I see the A's getting a little better, and I think that's crucial. The A's have made some moves, right? And I think they're going to win a few more games, right? They won 68. I think Vegas has them at 70 this year.
Okay.
I probably would predict 71, 72, right? So you steal a game from the Rangers, steal a game from the Angels, steal a game from the Mariners, but probably not, from the Astros. I think that if the Astros don't have like that, initial hiccup that they had last year, where even if they had won like 5 more of those games, that they kind of lost in the beginning of the year,
right.
Then what, you're sitting at 93, 94 wins, right?
Yeah.
And then when you play the Yankees, you're probably better, right? And everyone's in a better headspace. Honestly, I could see it. Yeah, I can honestly see it. I see Baltimore there, but I don't know what they're going to do with
Baltimore. I would love to ask you about that real quick. I mean, I know this is locked on Astros, but Baltimore, like everybody was like, holy crap, we don't want to face Baltimore in the playoffs. And I had a friend that said, hey, man, let me tell you, Baltimore is going to do the same thing they always do. They're going to get to the playoffs. He calls them the Padres of the AL. And I'm like, ooh, that kind of stings. That's kind of disrespectful. He's like, well, they need to realize who they are. What is the feel for Orioles fans in Baltimore? We'll get them next year. Are they getting kind of frustrated? The last 2 years they've gone in and kind of fallen flat. Yeah.
So 2 years ago, when they first got, their 101 wins,
right.
I feel like that was, I don't want to say a fluke, right? Because they're a fantastic team. And then ownership changed, right? And that was a huge issue because the old people didn't want to spend, right?
Right.
And then the same week that ownership changes, they go out and get Corbin Burns, right? And, everyone's like, it's done. We're spending a ton of money now and we're going to be super good, right? And here we are a year later, and the younger pitchers have had another year to develop,
right?
But it's like you need to go out and get that ace. And I think the ultimate problem is that the hitters, the batting, the lineup is so rookie-esque heavy, like with
right.
no real like veteran. I mean, James McCann was there last year, but not the kind of like guy that's going to go up, take charge, hit the home run, right? Whereas Gunner's awesome, but he's still not super seasoned yet, and Adley and that's where they are. And I would have liked to see them maybe go out, get another guy who's been there, done that, and a very big power threat to kind of be able to rally the troops a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas I just feel like it's almost like the Yips, where you're getting a bunch of guys who just aren't, like, they don't know the postseason yet.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, 2 postseasons in a row, and they haven't won a game yet, as one of our people mentioned. But Doug, this is a great conversation, man, and I'm sure you and I could probably take it into the midnight hour. We could take it to, we could burn the candle on both ends here. But we'll definitely have to bring you back on whenever we have Eric, and maybe even during the season. Since you're a Baltimore guy, I know we usually have our Locked On Baltimore host come on. He does a great job. But man, you got some great knowledge, and I just want to remind our people, you're listening to an active duty Army member of the United States Army. So Doug, thank you for your service. We do appreciate you. We appreciate the military big time, especially here in Texas. But any closing thoughts you want to tell people a little bit about your spaces you have going with former Major Leaguer Ty Buttrey?
Yeah, so I got Ty Buttrey coming up on Wednesday. So basically, I bring him in, talk to him for a little bit, one-on-one, and if they have any more time, more time at the end, I'd love to, call some people up. if I'm not mistaken, he was an Angel for a couple of years, but then I believe he signed a minor league deal with the Astros. I don't remember if it was before or after.
He came in and didn't really do much. He was at AAA. He didn't do much, but Baltimore will be interesting. Depending on where the Astros are. Would the Astros be considered moving someone like a Valdez to Baltimore? I don't know if you want to do that with those.
I've heard those rumors.
Because you guys got a ton of prospects. I mean, Mike Elias can, maybe he can give us a gift in return of saying, like, thank you for making me the great GM that I am. And so here's a gift back. Here's a thank you gift. I mean, I wouldn't mind that because you guys definitely have some exciting people.
Yeah, I think that's what rubbed the Orioles fans kind of the wrong way in, going out getting Burns, and we gave up DL Hall and Joey Ortiz, which Joey Ortiz was, positionally blocked, and DL Hall didn't have the best of years, right? So it looks okay, right? But it's still a loss, right? And that would be fine, but now we don't have anything to show for it, right? It's kind of like the Juan Soto whole big thing, right? The Yankees give up all this and you got nothing for it, right? Same with Shohei, right? That I mentioned before. But so, I think my buddy JB talked about Dylan Cease yesterday, and I was like, I hope not. Nothing but good stuff to say about Cease and Valdez, but I hope they go towards someone that they, unless there's an extension in the workings, right? I'm very, for whatever reason, I'm just very against trading for someone that doesn't, isn't going to agree to an extension.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what about?
Go out and spend money on someone.
Yeah, What about your guy, Heston Kjerstad? This guy is, I think, didn't he come up and go back down, or what's the projection in Baltimore for him? Because I know a lot of our fans have mentioned him. I mean, he's still pretty highly thought of right now, isn't he?
Yeah. So the issue is, now we have O'Neill for 3 years, right?
Right.
Hauser's going to be a mainstay, and I think Mullins has a year left. So with Mullins having a year left, you're probably going to have Kjerstad as the fourth outfielder, splitting time in between. And this is also why it kind of is a foregone conclusion that Santander is not coming back.
Right.
Just because then and there's also O'Hearn that splits, platoons with Mountie and sees time in right field too. So, and then they got Jorge Mateo, who can play center field. He was hurt last year. So they have so many of these guys that can play outfield. But they also went through a lot of the outfielders got hurt last year. So I think they're going to be cautious in keeping these guys for now. And then probably if Mullins doesn't end up re-signing, then Kjerstad's there.
Okay. And hey, some little trivia here. Colton Cowser and our first round draft pick last year, Walker Yannick, who we actually interviewed. We actually got to interview him before the Astros did for their podcast. That was actually pretty exciting.
Really?
They were both picked out of Sam Houston State, and Sam Houston State's the only college in Texas to have 2 first-round picks in the last 5 years in the draft, top 10 picks.
That's
no other. Yeah, so Sam Houston State's represented hard there on the East Coast, represented here with the Astros. So it's always fun to see those kids come back home.
Yeah, absolutely. Just last words to close it up. I think, just back to the predictions, I do think the Astros have a legitimate shot winning the division and, getting back. But man, when they match up against the Dodgers, I don't know if it's going to matter who's representing in the World Series, right?
Yeah, definitely. You're right. I mean, but you know what I do love for us in the AL? I love how all the superstars went to the NL. They have to have a World War III just to get to the final game. I mean, Unfortunately, you're not going to see Soto versus Ohtani in the World Series. Unfortunately, you're not going to see Kyle Tucker versus Ohtani. Like, you're going to see all these guys are all in the National League. Yeah. And, more power to the AL. And so, well, hey, Doug, I don't want to keep you much longer, but thank you so much for joining us. This has been great. Definitely. We'll definitely have you back again. Check him out on Spaces, MLB on Spaces. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Now, listen, make sure that you check out a new feature we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a preview to each episode each night here in the off season, seeing how that works. And we're also going to link the show in that video. So what you can do is you can share the short video with your friend. They watch 60 seconds of Locked On and say, make sure you click the link and get the notification for the episode. That way we bring more people in. Over 200 of y'all showed up tonight. I'm super pumped. Eric couldn't be here tonight. He sends his best to y'all. He'll be back tomorrow. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse here at Locked On Astros. He's Doug. He's the MLB Spaces king. So thank you, sir, for joining us. Y'all have a good one. And I'll just say it on here for the record. Go Baltimore. Just don't beat the Astros. And go Astros. We're always positive, always Stros. Y'all have a good one. We're out. Good show, man.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, definitely.